My own son kicked me out of my home and locked me away in a nursing home like some unwanted piece of furniture. Also, he and his wife could claim my apartment, remodel it to their tastes, and parade around like they built something on their own. I didn't fight it. I let it happen quietly. No screaming, no lawsuits. Just silence. And that silence made them confident. Too confident. Because sometimes, the best revenge doesn't come with yelling, it comes when they think you've disappeared. Until you show up again, at the exact moment everything falls apart. My name is Victor. I'm 62. Retired plumber, widower, father of one, Ethan. When my wife died 6 years ago, it was just me and him. He was my whole world. I sold my small countryside house and moved into a decent 2-bedroom apartment in the city so I could be closer to him. Help with groceries. Fix stuff around his place. Babysit his son when he needed. I thought we were close. I thought he loved me. But people change when there's real estate involved. Ethan married a woman named Claire. She was sharp-tongued and ambitious in the worst way. She saw people as stepping stones, and I, apparently, was a stone in the way of their dream home. I noticed it started small. Claire would make passive comments about my apartment being in a good location. Wasted on a single old man. Then she'd ask Ethan why he didn't invite me over more, so she wouldn't have to look at the peeling wallpaper and broken tiles in my place. But the worst came when Ethan sat me down one afternoon with that fake, concerned tone. Dad, you're not getting any younger. Don't you think it's time to be somewhere safe? With people who can help if something happens? I raised an eyebrow. I'm perfectly fine where I am. Come on, he said. It's just a precaution. Claire and I found this really nice senior living facility. You'd have your own room, meals, nurses on standby. I don't need nurses, I said. Claire chimed in, uninvited. It's not about need, Victor. It's about quality of life. Don't you want peace? You're always fixing things around here. Wouldn't you rather relax? Relax? That's what they called it. But I wasn't stupid. I saw the papers he, accidentally, left on the table: power of attorney drafts, apartment transfer documents, timelines. They weren't trying to help. They were trying to move me out, take my name off the lease, and flip the place into their new nest. And still, I agreed. I told them I'd go for a trial week. See how the place felt. I signed the papers. I gave up my keys. Ethan hugged me like he was doing me a favor, but his eyes were already drifting to the floor plans. The nursing home wasn't awful, to be honest. Clean. Quiet. The staff were kind. But it wasn't home. And what hurt most wasn't the beige walls or the smell of disinfectant. It was the way Ethan visited once, took a photo with me for social media. Taking care of Dad! #family first. And then vanished. Weeks passed. Then months. The visits stopped completely. I called once. Claire answered and said they were busy with renovations. That was the last time I heard either of their voices. But I had my own plans. I wasn't just sitting around waiting to die. One of the nurses, Paul, was a younger guy who respected me. I helped him fix a leaky faucet in the staff bathroom, and he started bringing me news from the outside. I learned that Ethan had fully moved into my apartment. He remodeled it, tore down walls, put in new floors, even posted Instagram stories calling it the perfect starter home. He'd also taken out a massive loan for the renovations, using the apartment's estimated future value as collateral. Claire quit her job to become a full-time interior designer, and they were already talking about hosting real estate tours. They were counting on flipping the place for profit. But they made one mistake. They assumed I had nowhere else to go. What they didn't know was that before moving into that apartment, I'd kept my countryside house. Rented it out to a family friend for cheap. I never transferred the deed. I still had something in my name. Something I could use. And while they celebrated their success, I quietly started building something. With Paul's help, I got a lawyer, his cousin, fresh out of law school and hungry for a challenge. We reviewed every document Ethan made me sign. Turned out, he hadn't done it right. The transfer of the apartment was conditional on my permanent residence at the facility, and I hadn't stayed long enough for that clause to hold. Legally, I still had rights to the property. And even better, we discovered Ethan had misrepresented ownership status to get the renovation loan. Which meant the bank had every right to revoke it the moment I challenged the transfer. But I didn't move yet. I waited. Waited until Ethan finished renovations. Until Claire proudly hosted her first open house. Until they both went on a weekend getaway, bragging online about their deserved break after building the dream. That's when I struck. With legal paperwork in hand, I showed up at the apartment while they were gone. The real estate agent was there, confused, holding an open house for a property that legally wasn't in their name anymore. I changed the locks. Posted a notice on the door. Called the bank. Froze the loan. When Ethan and Claire returned, they found a letter taped to the door. Apartment reclaimed due to fraudulent transfer and ownership dispute. Contact your attorney. Ethan called me in a rage. What the hell did you do? I simply said. Took back what was mine. Ethan didn't believe me at first. He thought it was a prank or some kind of temporary mix-up. But when the bank froze their account and demanded immediate clarification of ownership, and when a court summons arrived for fraudulently acquiring a mortgage, his voice changed. The next time he called, he wasn't yelling. He was panicking. Dad, we need to talk. Please. Now it was Dad again. I met him in a small coffee shop near the apartment. He looked thinner, paler. Claire didn't come. I figured she was either furious or already packing her bags. Ethan sat across from me, trembling hands around a cup he hadn't touched. You don't have to do this, he said. It was just a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? I raised an eyebrow. You forged signatures. Took out a loan on a property that wasn't yours. Threw me into a facility to free up space. That's not misunderstanding, Ethan. That's betrayal. He looked down. We were desperate. Claire lost her job, and the baby, we thought it would give us a new start. There's no baby, I said coldly. His eyes snapped up. I've seen her Instagram. You're using that as bait for sympathy. Claire's not pregnant. She's just inflating the story like everything else. He didn't deny it. I gave you everything, I continued. I never charged you for help. Never made you pay rent when you lived with me after college. I spent my life trying to make your life easier. And this is how you repay me? I was stupid, he muttered. We thought we could handle it. We were going to pay the loan off quick, sell the place for profit, maybe buy something bigger. It got out of hand. I leaned in, voice low. You thought I'd just die in that home. You thought if you left me there long enough, I'd give up. He said nothing. I stood. You made your choices. Now live with them. And I left. In the following weeks, things unraveled quickly for Ethan and Claire. The bank launched an investigation. Claire tried to contact the real estate agent again, claiming she was still entitled to proceeds from the potential sale, but was swiftly informed that the apartment was now off the market and under legal dispute. They had poured thousands into a place they no longer owned. Worse yet, the loan defaulted. And when I proved I never agreed to co-sign or transfer full ownership, the debt fell squarely on Ethan. Claire left him. I don't know where she went. Her social media went silent, then disappeared completely. Ethan moved into a cheap one-bedroom on the outskirts of town. He tried calling me a few times. Left voicemails. Apologized. Said he needed help. Said he was homeless. He wasn't. Just broke. No car. No wife. No credit. One night, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered out of curiosity. It was Ethan. Dad, he said, voice cracking. Can I crash at your place for a bit? I let silence hang between us for several long seconds. Which one? I asked. The apartment you tried to steal, or the house you forgot I owned? He was quiet. I don't care, he said finally. I don't have anywhere else. I sighed. I'll leave a key under the mat, I said. At the house. But only for one night. I didn't wait for a reply. I hung up. He showed up the next morning, shoulders slumped, carrying a duffel bag that looked like it held everything he owned. I didn't say much. Just nodded toward the couch and went back to reading the paper. He thanked me. Looked like he wanted to cry. I let him stay for 3 nights. Then I gave him a list of places hiring laborers. No handouts. No money. Just a roof and a chance. It was more than he gave me. The next few weeks were strange. Having Ethan in the house again, this time broken, humbled, it stirred something in me. Not sympathy, not exactly. More like clarity. I had spent years idealizing him, thinking that if I just supported him enough, he'd become the man I hoped he'd be. But the man in my house now wasn't who I had raised. He was the product of his own shortcuts, his own sense of entitlement. And I wasn't going to fix that for him. I let him do odd jobs around the neighborhood, cleaning gutters, hauling junk, moving furniture. I knew people. Got him cash gigs. Told him if he wanted to stay longer, he had to pay rent. Not much, just enough to remind him what it meant to earn something. He never argued. Just nodded. One evening, I came home and found him sitting on the porch, staring at nothing. "Claire filed for divorce," he said, not looking at me. I sat down beside him. The air was cool, crickets chirping in the grass. "She says I ruined her life?" I didn't respond. There wasn't much to say. "I don't know how it all fell apart so fast." I glanced at him. "It didn't fall apart fast, Ethan. It was rotting for a long time. You just ignored the smell." He winced. But he didn't argue. Eventually, he got a steady job, loading trucks at a warehouse. Hard work. Long hours. I saw the toll it took on him. The calluses on his hands, the limp in his step. But I also saw something else, a flicker of responsibility. Of reality settling in. He started paying rent on time. Bought his own groceries. Fixed a leaky pipe in the kitchen without me asking. It wasn't redemption, not yet. But it was something. Months passed. We barely talked about the past. I didn't bring it up. He didn't either. But one night, after a long day, he came into the living room with 2 beers. Handed me one. Sat down. "I know what I did can't be undone," he said quietly. "And I don't expect you to forgive me. But I just wanted you to know, I'm trying. I'm not that guy anymore." I looked at him for a long moment. "Then prove it." "Not to me." "To yourself?" He nodded. Took a sip. Said nothing else. Time has a way of smoothing even the deepest wounds. But it doesn't erase them. He stayed with me for nearly a year. Saved up enough to rent a small studio across town. Still kept the warehouse job. Started going to therapy, he told me. Said he needed to understand why he always chased shortcuts. Why he took the easy way, even when it led to ruin. I respected that. Then one day, he invited me to lunch. Said there was someone he wanted me to meet. A woman named Lisa. Nothing serious, he said, but she was kind, grounded, worked as a nurse. I agreed to come. We sat in a small diner. Lisa was warm, intelligent, and didn't seem impressed by material things. She looked at Ethan not with adoration, but with realistic affection. Like she saw both the good and the broken in him, and didn't try to fix either. Afterward, he walked me to my car. "Thanks for coming," he said. "It meant a lot." I clapped a hand on his shoulder. "Just don't screw it up." He gave a tired smile. "Trying not to." Weeks later, he called again. "I want to do something for you. To make up for, well, everything." I laughed. "Unless you've got a time machine, I'm not sure that's possible." "No," he said. "But I've been talking to the lawyer who helped you get the apartment back. I'm saving up. I want to pay off the legal fees. All of them." I paused. "That wasn't cheap." "You don't have to." "I want to. I need to. I'll do it in installments if I have to." That hit me harder than I expected. For the first time, I saw not the son I'd raised, but the man he might finally be becoming. Of course, it didn't fix everything. The betrayal still lived in the corners of my memory, like a scar that no longer aches but never fades. But this wasn't about forgetting. It was about witnessing a change. Real, honest change. And that I could respect. The day Ethan brought over his first payment toward the legal fees, he handed me an envelope with a quiet kind of pride. "It's not much," he said, "but it's a start." I took it without ceremony, but inside, something shifted. It wasn't the money. It was the gesture, the intent behind it. For once, he was looking beyond himself. A few weeks later, he asked me to help him move into his new place. It was a modest studio above a laundromat, nothing fancy, but clean and his. He bought a second-hand couch, a tiny dining table, and even had a framed photo of me and him from when he was 10, propped on a bookshelf. That caught me off guard. I hadn't seen that photo in decades. "You kept that?" I asked. "Found it in one of Mom's old boxes. I liked it," he said simply. That night, over takeout, he told me about his routine. Early mornings, long shifts, saving money, skipping nights out. "Feels good," he said, "knowing I'm standing on my own." And I believed him. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. Then, one rainy afternoon, a letter arrived in the mail, addressed to me, but postmarked from Claire, my ex-daughter-in-law. I hesitated before opening it. Inside was a single page. A formal apology. She wrote about the manipulation, the pressure, how she had turned a blind eye to Ethan's selfishness until it bled into her own. She said she'd left the city, was starting over, and wanted me to know that what happened to me, being forced into that home, discarded, was a breaking point for her too. "You didn't deserve it," she wrote. "And I'm sorry I let it happen." I stared at the letter for a long time. I didn't feel vindicated. Just tired. But maybe, just maybe, it meant something had shifted. Not just for Ethan. But for all of us. Months turned into a year. Ethan stayed steady. He finished paying off the legal fees. We had dinner together once a week. He helped fix things around my apartment without me asking. And then, one Sunday, he told me Lisa was pregnant. I froze for a second, unsure how to react. He saw it in my face. "I know what you're thinking," he said. "But I'm not that guy anymore. I want to do this right. I want to be a good father. Better than I was a son." I looked at him, really looked, and saw it. He meant it. "Then don't talk about it," I said. "Show it." "I will," he replied. Lisa gave birth in early spring. A baby girl. They named her Grace. I visited them in the hospital. Held the child in my arms. She had Ethan's eyes, but softer somehow. Like the storm had passed before she arrived. When I handed her back to him, he looked terrified. But also proud. "I don't want her to grow up resenting me," he said. "I don't want to fail her." "Then don't," I said. "Every day show up. That's half the job." He nodded, rocking Grace gently. "I learned that from you. Eventually." Those words stayed with me for a long time. As Grace grew, I became part of her life, her grandpa, the quiet one who brought little wooden toys, who taught her how to whistle, who always listened. She gave me something I hadn't realized I was missing: peace. Not closure, but a calm acceptance of how things had unfolded. How they'd finally settled. Ethan never became a perfect man. But he became a present one. That was more than I thought possible. One evening, sitting on the same porch where he'd once told me Claire had left him, he handed me a worn leather journal. "I've been writing," he said. "Therapist suggested it. This one's for you." I opened the first page. It was dated the day he'd come back to my doorstep, homeless and desperate. The entries were raw, angry, ashamed, hopeful. And every few pages, there was a note addressed to me. Sometimes an apology, sometimes a memory. Sometimes just a simple, "Thank you for not giving up." I read the whole thing over the next week. And when I finished, I didn't cry. But something inside me let go. The past wasn't erased. But it no longer held me captive. I kept that journal in the drawer by my bed. Not because I needed reminders of the pain, but because it was proof that people can change. That sometimes the ones who hurt us the most are the ones who fight the hardest to make it right. If they choose to. If they're willing to bleed a little. Years passed. Grace grew fast. She liked puzzles, birds, and stories about when Daddy was small and wild. Ethan never tried to rewrite history for her. When she asked about the old photo on his shelf, he told her the truth. That's me and Grandpa. He's the reason I got another chance. When she was old enough to understand, he even took her to the care home. Not to shame himself, but to show her where he left me, and where he realized he'd gone too far. She held his hand the whole time. Never let go. One day, at her school's grandparent day, she introduced me proudly. "This is my grandpa," she said to her teacher. "He's the strongest person I know. And the smartest. And he makes the best bird noises." That night, Ethan sat across from me at the dinner table. "I still feel like I haven't done enough," he admitted. "No matter what I do, I keep thinking about that day I left you at the home." "You'll always remember it," I said. "That's the point. That's how you know you've changed. You carry it, so you never repeat it." He nodded, eyes glossy. Lisa joined us, placing Grace between us with a plate of brownies. "She drew you something," she said, smiling. It was a simple crayon drawing. A house, a tree, a sun with a happy face. And the three of us, me, Ethan, and Grace, holding hands. No Claire. No past. Just now. I pinned it to my fridge. The pain of what happened never fully left me. But it no longer defined me. Or Ethan. Or the family we became, not by blood or duty, but by choice, by effort, by time. Sometimes I still think about the day Ethan took my keys, threw me into that home, and didn't look back. I remember the cold room, the dull walls, the feeling of being erased. But now, when those memories surface, they don't bring bitterness. They bring contrast. Because I also remember the knock on my door months later. The hollow shell of my son standing in the rain. And the man who slowly, painfully, built himself back up. Brick by brick. Mistake by mistake. Redemption is never clean. It's not grand or dramatic. It's quiet. Uneven. Slow. And sometimes, it shows up wearing an old coat, carrying a child, asking for forgiveness not with words, but with a life rebuilt from the ruins. I gave him that chance. And he didn't waste it.